eliminations and once again backed away towards school. A little bit of a confusing affair, but hey, it worked out. They secured so many elimination points. Metal Esports on the screen, and Metal Esports unfortunately losing out on Sarvit, a man who popped off in the previous Erangel, not there in this game anymore. Legit Prince and Cyrex. That means Prince now needs to take matters in his own hands and make a lot happen. Few shots connected, but that also gives Metal Esports his position away. And speaking of Metal Esports and Team Tumulus, they've got such a good position to play with in the smack center of the next circle. Even if they do not decide to engage in the fight, they're still going to stay alive for such a long time in the game. And at this point in time, every single team is just waiting for the next zone to pop up. But how can they move down south? That's my real question. It will be a super tough affair. You've got Genix FM camping the bridge right next to 4M. You've also got Wallfangs camping the Novorupnoi bridge and waiting for someone to cross on forward. Bridgeways blocked. Waterways, they're going to be tough to execute considering all the boats will be taken already. Where do you go from? How do you take a rotation?
I don't know, man. It's going to be super difficult as Gamla Boy has also been knocked down by the plus of EXT. Really, last man of EXT finds one more finish point, but in the blue, do or die. And Gujarat Tigers also locking horns with each other as Avnish has been knocked out and Bhalu finds Gods as well. Gujarat Tigers, they need to go for the rescue mission onto the fallen comrades, but Bhalu's position is so pivotal as Arman out in the open trying to make a safe escape, but seems like the safe escape is not going to be allowed as Do or Die finds 2 finish points. But look at that, 2500 meters away from the circle. Neeraj, Do or Die, they need to make those rotations as soon as possible because on the other end of the bridge, like you pointed out, we have the plus of File Fangs just waiting for them.
God.
Look at the circle. This is crazy. This is going to be a complete bloodbath.
It's 50-50. There's only 50% of landmass available to play on, while the 50% is in water. And the circle's way too small. You already know what's about to happen. Hell's gonna break loose soon. Metal Esports, once again, they book it to the centric part. And Team Tumulus, they want to take it up close and personal as they once again barrage through the compound. Straight up ramming their vehicles on towards it. And for some reason, Metal Esports is falling prey. It's all down to legit. One last man surviving, pulls out the pump shotgun. First connection was there, but the entirety of Team Tumulus, they collapse. As the last man of Metal Esports, he can't do anything. One man and all the players, they just fall right on top of him. And unfortunately for Metal Esports, it's a big blow in this game.
Certainly, because it was Team Metal Esports who found the first knock onto Fox. They had the numbers advantage, but suddenly the tables turned. The way the plus of Team Tamilas started knocking down the plus of Metal Esports one after other. They came for the hunt and they were rewarded with 4 finish points. Now the prime spot inside the circle is with the plus of Team Tamilas. Definitely they can go huge in this one. They can go for that winner chicken dinner. But seems like they also need to have to deal with the plus of Team 8-Bit and Genix FM. Because seems like 8-Bit and Genix FM might also be eyeing for the same spot which the plus of Team Tamilas are having at this point.
I love the proactivity from Team Tumulus. Instantly realizing the fact that Metal Esports, they're going to be unsettled in the new compound. Moved up right behind the players of Metal Esports and took him down. That was a crazy fight executed from Team Tumulus, but still the timing was spot on. Unfortunately for Metal Esports, the 2 players were taken down instantly and not a lot could have been done just by that one last man legit. He tried his best, but when all the 4 players, they just collapsed right on top of you, you can't do anything. And now you've got Genix FM still holding the bridge. Their plan is so defensive, they do not want to let anyone through. At this point in time, even 4 miracles, they need to start pulling off some sort of miracles to try and get themselves in the circle. Hidden once. What just happened, Executor? He fell down to his own death. Will be ran over. Elimination point secured by Do or Die. That's going to be a freebie acquired. And for Do or Die, Somewhere down line, they themselves know. Now crossing on forward to the opposite side seems even tougher. But they're still wasting so much time on the main island. They do not have any other option anyways. They can slowly and steadily decide to move down south from that bridge. But Do or Die still taking a fight, busy taking a fight against the foes up north.
Oh. For Medical, one of the player has been spotted on by a Vishu of Genix FM. Few shots were being peppered, but no connection whatsoever. But the play zone will play its part as Poco gets knocked out. The revival is very important at this point for Medical. But out of 11, it's only 3 teams, Neeraj, who are inside the circle. Everyone is in the blue. Wildfangs 2+ still on the bridge. Genix FM 2+ still on the bridge. Godlike opting for the waterways to move inside the circle. Legit also taking the brunt of the blue. Seems like so many casualties are going to be there because of the play zone in this one. As the circle goes concentric shift. Team Tamila still in the center of the circle. 8-bit on the periphery of the circle. So good position even for the players of Team 8-bit. But Hero Extreme Godlike, they lost out to Jonathan at the very early stage of the game. With 5 finishes, they do have good amount of finishes in this one. But the waterways is the path which they have opted. But 8-bit, they have got their eyes onto the players of Genix FM. But Genix FM is not even aware as Dhruv gets taken down from the moving vehicle. Instant confirmation secured.
3 players still standing. 8-bit. They've got so much to worry about in the name of Genix FM. And Genix FM, they want to get their grip in the circle. The only team standing in the way is 8-bit. Termy. Even he's finding a lot of the connections, keeping the players of Genix FM humbled. It's a 3-on-3 fight. Even 8-bit is handicapped. Genix FM, they need to find a different way. Vicious found himself in the safer lines as Hero Extreme Godlike. They're going to move as well. Still taking the waterways. And Hero Extreme Godlike, they want to pull off some parkour moves. They park their boats. Now they start to make a move. But unfortunately, they also get spotted by the fisherman named 8-bit. Simp gets knocked out. There's still Admino moving underneath the water lines. But for how long can he keep himself safe? That's my question. Admino is still moving. He's slowly and steadily going to start to suffocate. As soon as he peeks back out, he takes a lot of damage upon himself. And Admino eventually will be knocked out as well as he drowns. It's quite unfortunate for Hero Extreme Godlike. Not a lot of terms can be made with the water. And that's why Hero Extreme Godlike is now slowly and steadily panicking as they meet their makers one after one. Punk is the only player who seems a bit safer for now. But for how long can he keep himself pinned in that same spot? Genix FM, they've got 8-bit. Omega in the front, a little bit of that pixel spotted. This nade from Evil. I just find the knock that's needed. And what an 8 that was. Perfect. Falls right on top of Omega. And that's going to give the opener the players of Genix FM needed. Evil wants to make that push, stop the revival coming through. Even the wall of death is moving up now, and that's going to do a lot of damage. Termy falls down. Evil is putting in so much work. This one single man from Genix FM, he's lighting up the opponents. And 8-bit, now it's time to close on up. But they can't do anything. They just have one man standing. And I don't think so a lot can be done by Mafia. Just that one last glimmer of hope as Genix FM, they once again make the push and they clean the floor up.
And the next could be the plus of Team BXT. Raiden, last man standing, has been spotted on with the plus of Genix FM out inside the water. Raiden, it's not going to be easy for him to survive at this point. And somewhere else on the map, we have the plus of 4 Miracle also locking horns with the plus of Reckoning. And in the meanwhile, even the players of Legit Esports have also been eliminated. Genix FM, they're accumulating those finish points. 4 finishes already in their favor. But look at Reckoning. They've got 7 finishes and Viper has got a job to do. The smoke cover is there, but one single grenade can mark an end for the entire team of Reckoning. That grenade could come from the side of Wildfangs, but seems like easy rescue mission has been done. But Sensei trying to go up close personal to the players of Reckoning, and finally The grenade is there, but the main question is, will the perfect connection will be there? And seems like the answer is going to be no connection, as Reckoning is trying to make a safe escape from the situation. Even the players of Wild Fangs were looking pretty solid, but they also need to move inside the circle. Punk, the last man of Hero Extreme Godlike, even he has been eliminated by Genix FM.
Wild Fangs on the move. For him, they found themselves quite a lot of space to play with. And for him up north, they're looking pretty isolated too. It's a great thing for them. Not a lot of foes around that same vicinity. They can keep on moving towards that same area. Team Tumulus, once again in the prime spot. The only compound inside of the circle acquired by Team Tumulus. And looking pretty dominant doing so as well. Wild Fangs, utilities being tossed right on top of them. For a moment we thought that even Wild Fangs can be a solid contender to win this game, but then everything messes up. Wild Fangs had no intel on what exactly the placement looks like from the opposition, but look at what's happening on the screen. Reckoning Esports, they fall right on top of the place of Forum, and now Forum crumbling down. Beard Baba inside of the vehicle. But for how long can he keep himself alive? That's my question. Reckoning Esports, they've got the entirety of 4M surrounded. It's just one last man standing, and even Dionysus gets knocked out and dealt with. Reckoning Esports outside of the game, and that's going to give a lifeline to the players of 4M. The fallen players, they can be back up on their feet. As Dragon OP, there's a revival coming through.
Well, certainly the revival is important, but you also have the plus of Team Tamilas charging right to the face of 4 Miracle. As one player goes down, Beard Baba still fighting, even he has been knocked down, and with that, Team Tamilas eliminates the entirety of Team 4 Miracles. But Fox OP has been knocked out. Team Tamilas, they need to go for the rescue mission. Genix FM is still there. They want to strike at the right opportunity. 6 finishes already in the favor of Team Tamilas. This revival is not going to be easy at all. Seems like Maxi has to make the mature decision and leave the fallen comrade bleed to death. Even if you look at the mini-map, Alien of Hidden Ones is still hiding inside the water. We have the players of Wild Fangs onto the shorelines. Even Wild Fangs has to move inside the circle, and is not going to be easy at all. As we have Raiden also of VXT just waiting for them.
What happened to Team Tamilas? They were in such a dominant spot. They had the prime spot to play with. And look at what's happening. Alien got the line of sight against the entirety of Wild Fangs. All the 3 players spotted. Alien wants, he can go for the strike. He fights the first strike as well. Trace God's out in the open. Even he gets knocked out. What is going on? This man is racking up eliminations. This man's going to wrap up the entirety of Wild Fangs, and that's what happens.
Single man eliminates the entirety of Wild Fangs. Alien was inside the water since a very long time, and Wild Fangs went for the similar rotation, and seems like Alien struck at the right moment. But Team Tamilas, Maxi OP also needs to deal with the players of Genix FM, but seems like Genix FM will mark an end for Team Tamilas as well. 10 finishes, Neeraj. Genix FM is looking super strong, and only one other player remaining. It's a 1v4 situation for Raiden of VXT.
A game that will ignite the fire in Genix FM's heart, and also ignites the chances that Genix FM will establish a comeback in the overall standings. They were there, but on the latter half of the board. Genix FM with this game, they can easily make that bounce back in the top 16. And once again, you got to give it to the zone as well. The zone played his big games. Maverick knows the last man is right underneath. That's why it's tossing out the utilities. He's got 6 nades, by the way. If he wants, he can toss every single one of them. But he's still not going for it. Maybe he's not sure. And eventually the play zone will do its deed as it eats Raiden alive. And it will be Genix FM securing the chicken dinner. And this is the chicken dinner we all were waiting for. Genix FM's comeback has now been marked.
Oh, certainly. Genix FM, a lot of finish points also accumulated in this game. It was not at all a safe approach of Gen X FM. They were annihilating. They were literally dominating the entire lobby, and 10 placement points is definitely going to boost the confidence of the entire team. It was 8-bit. It all started with 8-bit. And after that, it was Team Tamilas. So many teams were eliminated by the plus of Gen X FM. In fact, it was Gen X FM, one of the player, I forgot his name, who was literally at a very prime spot in a fight against the plus of Team Tamilas. And this guy was doing so much. We'll see his name in the MVP list also.
Evil. I think
yes, Evil. Yeah, Evil was the guy.
Evil was the one who was racking up so many finished points, right? And even that player from Hidden Ones who was out there, Alien. He was able to strike down the entirety of Wildfangs. And for Wildfangs, things just cannot be even worse. All the three players, for a moment, we thought, okay, Wildfangs still in the race. There's a big chance if they make the climb, they can definitely pull off a big comeback. But once again, for Wildfangs, it was quite a tough pill to swallow that there's no way you can make it up top from that ridge that they were playing with. So for Wildfangs, anyways, they were going to meet the makers no matter what happens. So it was definitely quite a brutal ending. Eventually, they got swallowed up by Alien from Hidden Ones. And once again, for Aliens, those 3 points are going to be quite nice. Those consolation 3 points that he got. Hero Extreme Godlike off the rip. They went to our school, but then moved down south. Quite a proactive approach. And they secured 5 elimination points with that one single move.
Even this fight, where Hidden Ones were fighting with a plus of -40 out in their blue, it was a fight which was entirely in the favor of Hidden Ones, but they lost onto one player. And suddenly, for a second, it looked like this might go in the favor of -40, but Hidden Ones held on to the calm and composure and took that entire fight in their favor. I think Team Tamilas, the majority of the work was done against the plus of Metal Esports. The moment Team Tamilas took that compound from the hands of Metal Esports, 50% of the job was already done.
Team Tamilas could have done much better, honestly, because they had such a good compound to play with. Only if they would have showcased a bit more of those patience, maybe Team Tamilas could have been alive in the game. But then they pushed out of their comfort zone, got knocked out, got taken down, and then later on, it was just one last man standing, and you cannot really expect one last player to do a lot, especially against the entire firing squad of Gen X FM. And of course, Evil was the man who was on fire, who was racking up so many elimination points. A lot of the teams got eliminated up north itself, considering there was not a lot of that playing area, and the circle moved down south. Hero Extreme Godlike too, they could not really do a lot, considering they went for the botation, and they got caught off guard too in Waterways itself. So Hero Extreme Godlike, they had no fighting chance at the end of the day. The match MVP of the previous game will be Alien, securing those 3 finishes from Wildfangs. It's going to bring him a total of 6 finishes.
6 finishes, 75% finish contribution. Map impact is going to be 10%. I'm sure the entire team of Wildfangs is going to be pretty angry about Alien hiding inside the water, because yes, I do agree Wildfangs would have eventually hit the bucket, but maybe they would have secured few more placement points, but that also didn't happen, all thanks to Alien getting placed at the perfect spot at that point. But the best companion is going to be Seth of Wildfangs with 2 rescues coming in. So even Wildfangs, the inconsistency is still there from their side.
I mean, getting 1v3 in the end is not exactly going to be that happy moment, right? So, of course, Wildfangs, they're not going to be happy with themselves. They will be super pissed as Alien, 6 finishes racked up. And in general, I think so Hidden Ones, they should at least have 10 elimination points in total. That's going to give them so many points. Hidden Ones, that was a decent game once again. For some reason, Hidden Ones, they just don't drop down with their consistency. Gen X FM, a solid chicken dinner. We expected a lot of the points, even from the side of 8-bit, but unfortunately, even 8-bit got denied. So, yeah, I mean, expectations not exactly there, but still some new teams popped off, so that's a great thing.
I think we can't blame a particular team at this point, because the circle itself was so crazy. No one expected such a circle. The rotations became such a big challenge for everyone. Everyone was going for the late rotation, but seems like the Novo Rupnoy bridge was held by the plus of Wildfangs for a very long time. The challenge was there on the military base bridge. Also, we had the plus of Gen X FM. So it became a big challenge for all the teams who were trying to migrate from the main island toward the southern island. Godlike, they ultimately opted for the waterways. Even the plus of 8-bit were there. So it was a circle in this particular Erangel, which kind of rained on the parade of so many teams, because even the late rotation didn't work for so many of them.
Indeed, it did not, right? I mean, even GT was one of those names that got eliminated up north, right? So we had a lot of expectations from GT, but unfortunately, those expectations, they could not really deliver on top of them. But let's move on towards the match rankings of the previous game. As Gen X FM, they get 20 points, and VXT getting 12 points. Hidden Ones as well, getting 12 points in total. Solid outing from Hidden Ones.
Certainly, solid outing, 8 finishes, total 12 points. Team Tamilas also having 11 points. Yes, I agree, Team Tamilas could have done much better, but 11 points is, I think, it's okay. Reckoning also, they were engaging in too many fights, but a third party which came from the side of Gen X FM marked an end for Reckoning also. But there were few disappointments, like Metal Esports getting a very early elimination. In fact, it was Team Tamilas who eliminated them. Otherwise, Metal was in the prime spot. RGC also out in the open with 0 points this time, sitting on the 15th spot. Legit Esports, the misery is still continuing for Legit Esports, Neeraj.
It indeed is. Overall rankings on the screen. Hero Extreme Godlike still at the top. VXT with 107 points. You've got Reckoning Esports with 99 points. The top 5 looking unmovable. But then there's an entrance from Hidden Ones with 74 points in total. Metal Esports with 73. WindGod is still there. We haven't really seen them in the playing field so far, so they're going to be there in the upcoming groups. But 72 points from the side of WindGod too. You flip the page and you will see a few more known names in the top 16. As long as you're there in the top 16, that's all that matters.
Of course, Team Just Jelly, yes, they haven't played their games of this week yet, but sitting at the 16th spot with total of 59 points, I think by the end of the day, they are still going to be in the top 16. 4 Miracle on the 15th spot with 60 points. Yes, they are in the safe zone, but one good game from the bottom teams and 4 Miracle, they can be out of the top 16. OG with 62 points, sitting on the 14th spot. Even Gen FM, I think their position has been solidified in the top 16 after this winner chicken dinner.
Indeed, it has been. It was a big catapult from Gen X FM. Towards the latter half of the board, still a few concerning names. Vasista Esports, RGC. You've also got Team Diesel Esports, GDR. We haven't really seen Diesel Esports and GDR yet in the stepping field, but still, Vasista Esports is definitely a bit of that concerning side, and even RGC, which was Team Bunny in the past. So for RGC, definitely they were struggling throughout this entire day, but tomorrow maybe things can be a bit different.
Maybe that's a possibility which is always going to be there, but my concerns are for Team 8-Bit, Do or Die, minus 40 Legit Esports. They are right at the bottom of the leaderboard, Neeraj, and with all the 12 games being played, their games for today are already over. With only 2 days remaining for this week, I don't know how they're going to pull themselves in the top 16, especially 8-Bit. A big name is there. We have been talking about 8-Bit quite a lot. The major problem for 8-Bit, I think, is the inconsistency at this point, because one good game, they pop off really well, and then cut to next game, they get an early elimination.
That's the main problem with 8-Bit, right? One good game, as you mentioned, they do get a decent amount of points, but then the second game, 8-Bit just nowhere to be seen. And it's not even that they pop off. They just get enough amount of points to keep themselves in that race. 15 points, or maybe you can't say 10 points, but still, that's not enough for a team like 8-Bit to keep themselves in the race. Now, the upcoming map is also going to be the map of Sanhok. Group B and C will be the one to step in the playing field. That means teams like K9 Esports and a few more known names will be there. But my eyes are going to be locked on K9 Esports because even they need to establish a comeback.
100% agree. Day number 1 in week 1, they got only 2 points. Then day 2 got the 32 points. Day 3, they just got decent average points of total 18. So yes, team K9 is one of those teams we need to look out for. But Cincinnati Kids, a major disappointment, I'll say, Neeraj, because Cincinnati, even their misery continued the entire week 1. So week number 2, they need to have a good start at any cost. Otherwise, maybe they'll have the same fate just like the plus of Team 8-Bit.
Yeah, Cincinnati Kids nowhere to be seen, right? I mean, it's one of those banners that we know is capable of a lot. They've once again got veterans in their lineup, but for some reason, this time around, we're just not seeing Cincinnati Kids at all. They haven't even gotten one single good game in their hands, and that's honestly a big sign of concern. We all think that 8-Bit's not able to perform, but then Cincinnati Kids comes in, and they have been doing even worse compared to the players of 8-Bit. And considering it's not even a rookie team, then you really do expect rookie teams to struggle, but Cincinnati Kids is quite the veterans, and still they're on the struggling side of the face. I don't understand what's going to be ending their misery here.
I think the best day they had was the last day of week number 1 where they got 15 points.
Yeah.
Day number 2 only 2 points. Day number 1 only 8 points. And from such an experienced lineup, we don't expect 2 points in the entire day. So definitely Cincinnati Kids is one of those teams which needs to step up big time in
Yep.
this particular week. Along with Cincinnati Kids, there are a few other names as well, like Bot Army Esports with just single digit placement points. I saw 3 placement points. They have got finish
Yep,
points,
yep.
but placement points only 3 placement points. Bot Army is also one of those teams which was popping off in the open finals. But let's hope they pop off in challenge season as well. Maybe it was the pressure of the challenge season which they were not able to adapt to. But I think Neeraj is going to take a little bit of the breather in this one, and we have got Fixes joining me. So Fixes, Sanhok is there. What are your predictions for this one?
Listen, Shadow. 3 things are consistent in life: death, taxes, and K9 and Aiku Soul going up against each other. I think rings a bell around Shrine. With bated breaths, we wait for these 2 titans to collide against each other. And yes, they are not going to shy away from it. Revenant X Park also in the nearby vicinity, dropping down around Camp Alpha maybe, or could take over Hatin. Whatever the case is, but seems like a different approach comes in from K9. They have denied themselves that luxury, the pleasure to engage in that fight. As the circle draws, it is going to be an Eastern one. And all these teams, to my shock, are so separated from each other. And for a moment, it feels like Aiku Soul and Revenant X Park could be locking horns instantly.
I think that's such a mature decision coming from the side of K9 Omega, because if you look at the position where K9 is in the overall standings, I think they need those points. And engaging in a drop clash at this point, it can go either ways. Maybe you will get 4 finishes, or maybe you will be the one to be eliminated. Anything can happen. So I think it's a mature decision coming from the side of Omega at this point. Maybe they can just wait for the players of Aiku Soul inside the circle and try gatekeep them. Then we also have the players of God's Train towards the side of Paradise Resort. We also have got the players of Orangutan having that linear split around Bhan. And I think in this particular circle, OG can do very well considering the position.
Feels like everybody is looking at the bigger picture at this point, because when you take a look at the map, you do find Ninja Boy still atop the shrine area. However, the same can't be said for Aiku Soul, and understandably why. The final day of week 1, we saw them struggling massively, getting eliminated right from the get-go, and they realized that they need to establish their footing. As a result of which, they've backed off towards Camp Alpha, which is certainly fair. But we also do know, along with that Shadow, that all these 3 teams, these 3 big names, they will have to cross over the bridge. So it's going to be really interesting as Diesel and Team Empire lock horns against each other. Predator already down on his knees. It's been wiped out already. Fight erupting out in the southern sides of the map at Camp Charlie. As Revenant X Park still look forward to cementing their lead, even maybe challenge the likes of Hero Extreme Godlike for the first position, especially with how exceptional they've played tonight. Revenant X Park, the defending champions of recently held official events, have been stellar throughout this entire year. But it is 2025 now. The big question is, can they keep their winning run alive?
I don't know if you remember the performance of Revenant X Park, the first Sanhok which they played in the previous week. They got only 1 total point. That Sanhok didn't go entirely in their favor. So maybe this time Revenant X Park would have rectified the mistake. But for now, we have the players of Bot Army Esports up on our screens, as they are also trying to move a little deeper inside the circle. But although 4 players in the same vehicle, we saw what happened in the previous Sanhok fixes. I'm not jinxing anything. I'm just stating the fact that a similar thing happened in the previous Sanhok in week 1.
Yeah, and that could be more often than not quite devastating. But of course, eyes will also be on this team in front of us, Carnival Gaming, having recently won another third-party tournament, and they're also soaring high, if not in the standings of the Snapdragon Pro Series. This is where they might look at redeeming themselves back. Got a perfect lineup, all 4 young guns, and with a lot of hunger in them. This time, having spotted out Zyrix. It's going to be interesting as to how he gels up with the squad. The first day that he came to play, I think he was quite phenomenal. Look at Orangutan. Feels like they've got their eyes set on the players of Myth Official, Oxen, Aiden. Beautiful new young guns we've seen lately. Oh my god, this does not look good. This could go nasty. Veyron has got them locked on. He's just waiting for these two players to come out from a really tricky place. There you have it. This is his perfect time to strike, and he does. Takes down one. Looking forward towards Aiden also. Oxen down on his knees, and Myth Official. Their misery has begun.
Of course, there is no way that Oxen can be revived in this situation, but Veyron also needs to be a bit cautious because he's so far away from his teammates. He's all by himself. Yes, it's not the entire team of Myth officials right in front of him. It was only 2 players, out of which he has managed to take down 1 player. But we also have the plus of K9 gatekeeping the plus of Team Aiku Soul, as Omega has been knocked out. Even Slug also needs to go for the rescue mission. One of the players from the side of Aiku is also knocked down. But look at the flank which is coming from the side of Mania. This is going to be so deadly for the plus of K9.
No. Slug, he's relayed that information. He knows. Of course, it comes at a cost. Omega, done and dusted, and which could have been one of those fights which we would have witnessed once the bell rung. Now seems like it could come to its conclusion. Both these sides. In fact, Aiku Soul, they've managed to keep Manya alive there. Barely at a sliver of HP though, as Some charges in. Slug, position finally revealed, and there you go. He does that smacking as Aiku Soul right on their faces fall flat. Manya does not have a lot of HP to work around with, as now K9, they're hungry, they want more. Some's got a little bit of a nice angle to play around, and all that Slug needs to do is just buy enough time. Manya really not in the position to provide cover fire as Slug pops that Molotov right at its way. Manya does not have any meds, just those couple of bandages, and eventually he gets shut down. The final player surviving for Aiku Soul Some, wanting to change things around, but K9, they're looking fierce, they're looking aggressive. This time they want Aiku Soul, and they will take it in full. No respects paid over here. K9 have outdone themselves. They have eliminated Aiku Soul.
Kudos to Slug, the way this guy has managed to find those knocks onto the plus of Team Aiku Soul. He found the first connection. After that, he took down 2 plus, after which 1, Manya, was revived back again in the game, and Beast finally took him down. So Slug having 3 finishes in that situation. K9, definitely they are looking forward to more aggressive approach in this particular Sanhok. With 4 finishes, the confidence is going to be there. But we also have got the plus of Carnival Gaming at this point in a close proximity to the plus of Cincinnati Kids. So even Carnival needs to be a bit careful. But there are few teams fixes which are still in the blue and going for the late rotation. Like we have the plus of Revenant X Spark still toward the side of Camp Alpha. Then we also have the plus of Team Red Ross toward the side of Tat Mock.
Look at that cluster forming around the eastern sides of the map, Shadow. So many teams in the mix. You've got Wingod, you've got a couple of players of Myth Officials. Yes, we do also have Team Empire and Carnival Gaming. They've got the best position right now. The smack center, and still have all their players alive. This is, of course, Carnival's games to lose, considering the fact that they have outdone themselves recently. They have been playing so well, especially having such a central position. This is a team that has a lot of depth. They know how to defend, they know how to push. Just have to keep their numbers tight, have to be aware of their surroundings, and if all those factors do come into place, this chicken dinner should be theirs. As Cincinnati Kids, this is one of those teams that we will be eyeing out for. Did not have a great week 1, but towards the end, I think in those final few games, they did somehow manage to redeem a couple of points back. The fresh new start and a fresh new year. Cincinnati Kids, we know we've been so much, we have always seen them get into the grand finals, but this time they have taken a different road, somewhere languishing down in the bottom. This is the week where they have to get themselves back in the pecking order.
I agree. Even in the interview, Juicy was pointing out that from this week onwards, they'll be correcting all the mistakes and will be trying to stage a comeback, because this is not a position where we want to see Cincinnati Kids at this point. But we also have got the plus of Vingod Esports up on our screens. And Vingod, I think week number 1 was fantastic for this team. Whatever they were doing, it was working in their favor. Starting from the very first Erangel, Vingod, they went for the aggressive side, and that worked for them. Even in this Sanhok also. They have got the southern control, southern compound to their name. The only problem is the players of team Orangutan, who are in the close proximity. And if you remember, week number 1 Sanhok, I think OG did very well in that Sanhok. They got total of 15 points. So I can say that Sanhok is not such a weak map for OG. They can do really well in this particular one, as well as Phoenix Esports. All too has been spotted down by Visgod, and immediately Visgod strikes and takes him out of the lobby.
Oh, interesting stuff coming in. Orangutan really finding an awkwardly positioned, or rather, Phoenix Esports, who were trying to find a good spot for themselves. Phoenix Esports, this is a team that we have talked about a lot, especially in that first week. Quite a disappointing performance till that final day 3. They just decided to go all out. Did manage to somehow stage a comeback, but today we need to see more out of them. As Orangutan, also one of those teams, I feel like Shadow, they've always been one of the contenders. Always have given up so much hope. But right in the next moment, they somehow managed to kind of fluster a few things. Still fighting with their demons, but another fresh new week. A good start, nonetheless. Takes you back to that first game, like you said. Did get a lot of finishes, but would love to see some chickens coming out from OG's side. As it seems like AKOP. He spotted out players of Vingod and instantly finds cover. Good decision.
Yep, Sanhok is not one of those maps where you can afford to be out in the open for a very long time, especially when you're aware that there is a foe in the nearby vicinity. Let's see where the next circle shift is going to come in, and it goes a little south. So even the players of Cincinnati can do really well in this one, because the circle is definitely favoring them a lot. Along with Cincinnati, I think it is favoring the players of Team Jelly also quite a lot. As we look at the finish feed, even the players of K9 are locking on with the players of Genesis at this point, and they found the first knock. So already a good connection, a good opening for K9, as Ninja Boy goes for the confirmation onto Fragger, leaving Genesis with only 3 players remaining.
Interesting stuff coming out of K9. Especially feels like the old K9 is back. They've got their fangs sharpened up already. On their foes have already eliminated the entirety of Aiku Soul, and next up on their hit list could be the players of Genesis. As now Orangutan spread their arms on the players of Vingod at 1 knock secured, and look at them making some aggressive maneuvers over here. And Veron has to be very cautious. You've got Yash on the back lines. Certainly could provide that cover fire. OG needs to cover some ground as LeBron, oh my god, gets spotted out right in the open. And look at OG. They're playing so good at this time, giving those perfect cover fires, all as a well-knit unit, being quite proactive all over the place. And they're controlling so much of that map space. And Vingod, their options have been limited. The wins from their cells have been lifted.
OG, they are doing everything good. I agree with that. But what is happening with the players of Team Vingod Esports? Because look at the position where Infinity is. There is no way for a rescue mission coming in for him at this point. We also have got the players of Phoenix Esports in the close proximity. So even they need to be careful. Actually, it is Vingod Esports, Sahil. And seems like he might want to gatekeep the players of OG at this point. We also have Phoenix Esports in the close proximity. There is a possibility of a third party happening in this situation. In all this scenario, there is a team which is present in a very good spot to strike at the right moment. That is going to be the players of Team Empire, right on the side of Quarry.
Interesting stuff. Love to see what happens to Vingod. How do they free themselves from that situation? Like you said, a lot of these teams need to migrate from the northern side. As Phoenix Esports did have a couple of those early casualties, but seems like their misery do continue. Of course, did get 1 knock, but instantly losing out on one of their players. But now, look at this. Fury finally gets his hands hot, and now he is getting that revenge story online. Just dismantling 2 players of Orangutan as they are caught astray. Off guard, pans down. And Phoenix Esports do them dirty over there. As Bot Army Esports also circling from the backlines. Seems like Phoenix Esports now, they've got a lot of information to act with. But now, what they need to focus on is getting inside the circle. It still stays 3 though. The moment the 4th circle starts hitting in, that's where the damage really starts hurting you. And now, Orangutan, they are playing with fire. Oh, nice cover fire comes in. That has to be somebody from OG. Beautifully well-timed as Venom, barely even surviving, needs to administer that first aid, and he does get it.
He does, but he doesn't have the numbers. It's only Venom remaining and the entire team of OG right in front of him on one side and the players of Team Empire on the other side. He's pretty much stuck in that situation because I think even the players of Team Empire are aware about the position of Venom at this point. As Watch Army Esports, they get a confirmation point onto Fury of Phoenix Esports. Well, a knock was there and Watch Army Esports just reaped the benefits out of it. But Team Empire, looking at the position on the mini-map also, I think they are placed perfectly to try and gatekeep all the teams who are trying to migrate from the eastern side, including the players of Team Myth Officials, even the players of Team God's Reign are also there. Then we have OG, the last player of Phoenix Esports. So many teams trying to migrate from the eastern side as Veron has locked his eyes onto Venom of Phoenix Esports and
Oh,
just missed it.
now he's just waiting for Venom to be out in the open. Venom has no idea he was spotted out, but seems like Veron a little quick on the triggers. Has timed it. Of course, I think OG, they are eyeing on getting inside the circle. I think Veron wanted to take one last dig. Maybe get that final elimination, but alright, interesting rotation. Comes in from OG as this vehicle almost on the verge of a flip. But somehow stays intact. As now Team Empire, they know what's coming their way. Team Empire, considering a good spot they have to themselves, they will be drawing in so much attention as Spear, Tospa down, AK does take him down also. Quick retaliation comes in from Orangutan's side, but now OG, they're in such a tough spot. They are surrounded by the players of Team Empire and they're gonna take their sweet time and constantly letting OG just keep on wondering as to where the players of Team Empire are positioned. As OG still live to fight another day, Maxioso could also be one of the potential threats. But for Team Empire, they also need to check their position, Shadow, because if they are a little bit careless also, it could be the players of God's Reign striking from the backlines.
Oh, that could be a possibility. And God's Reign, they are striking onto the players of Team Myth at this point as they get one finish point. Even Red Ross is also could be the next victim for the players of God's Reign. God's Reign, if they play their cards right, I think they can accumulate a lot of finish point from this situation. We also have got the players of K9 and Revenant X-Park locking horns with each other. The trades are coming back and forth as Ninja Boy gets taken down by Shadow, leaving Beast all by himself. A grenade being popped off and 2+ right in front of him marks an end for K9 Esports. Revenant X-Park, 3 finishes accumulated and a good spot inside the circle as well.
Finally, K9 bend the knee, at least in front of Revenant X-Park. A little too much oomph for them to deal with. As they survive that onslaught, they will march on inside the circle. Cincinnati Kids still have all their players alive. As Orangutan going through such a tough situation right now. Ninja Jord being dealt with. Veron with a beautiful cover fire. AQOP keeps on bleeding down to his death. Veron at the last nick just somehow managed to get that revive in though. But for how long is the big question as Shiro from the backlines comes striking in and now Orangutan, they've got no answers. Out in the open, Aru helpless, begging for mercy as Shiro gets that wipe, but Veron, he is a man to be messed with. Nobody really standing supreme. He's been such a good player right now for Orangutan, providing that perfect cover fire. And now OG somehow get away with murder, but hold on. Team Empire were waiting for them, embracing their enclosure. As this close in, and instantly wiping out the remaining 2 players of OG. As God's Reign Destro gets his hands on Sketch. So much happening inside of Sanhok. So difficult to really process what's going on. So many teams from different angles. What is going on, Shadow?
All these teams are fighting in the blue. Genesis, then Red Ross and Destro. They were all out in the blue fighting against each other, where Red Ross has managed to eliminate the players of God's Reign, and in fact we have the players of Cincinnati Esports trying to breach into the compounds of Carnival Gaming at this point. They also need to be careful because out in the open we have the players of Diesel Esports. Scary Jot has been knocked out. Bot Army Esports also eliminated Juicy down on his knees, and Flock, Aditya Mighty trying to find some sort of connection with those grenades. A lot of utils being exchanged, but Juicy is just begging for the help and seems like no help, no revival is coming as Aditya also gets taken down.
Look at this, Carnival Gaming, they are fighting back. Suddenly, it's going all astray for Cincinnati kids. Flock seems to be the final man alive and barely surviving with a smudge. Needs to patch himself up as now look at this, the notorious gang does arrive. It is going to be Revenant X-Park, and now with Cincinnati kids out of the picture, they've got the fields open against Carnival Gaming to have that little bit of a high ground to play with. But now that also leaves them exposed. Hector out in the open, gets taken down from Empire. As Zirix, he has to keep the numbers afloat, spots out Joker, and there you go. Carnival Gaming done and dusted. As Revenant X-Park march inside of top 5 in style, and now they've got such a nice control of the circle. But they need to find some concrete covers because now the open fields are going to be proving so much fatal as Josh Jelly, they strike from behind against a rather wounded Wind God as one of the players already being taken down, and there you go. There goes the entirety of Wind God, and Josh Shelley having lost two of their players. Ninze still down on the knees as Revenant X-Park, they come for the cleanup.
They always do. They always do. In the fight against the players of Cincinnati and Carnival Gaming, all the players were knocked down by Carnival Gaming. It was Revenant X-Park who confirmed those finish points. But now, Joker, I think he's aware about the players of Team Empire at this point. As Spray God with the grenade finds a connection onto the players of Team Just Jelly as Jelly gets taken down by Empire. So much stuff happening as Revenant X-Park is just trying to clean things up, accumulating those finishes, 9 finishes already in their pockets and looking for more as Shadow takes down Hunter of Team Empire. But a grenade from the side of Ace also takes down Shadow. Revenant X-Park, they need to go for the revival at this point, but also needs to be aware about the position of Ace, the last man standing from Team Empire.
Look at these hungry wolves hunting in packs with each other and almost on the verge of getting this chicken dinner. Shadow having been taken down, the real test against Team Empire. It begins, but when you look at that mini map, one of the players has a beautiful angle, but look at Ace. One with the nature, just wanting to readjust himself as Hunter gets picked off and Revenant X-Park en route. Starting off 2025 campaign in style as Ace being just surrounded from every possible direction as Revenant X-Park sweep the floor with bodies flying around, everybody dropping down. The Kings are here and look at them making an entry inside this new year.
Revenant X-Park, definitely a very good start of the new year. 11 finishes already in their pockets, and hands down a chicken dinner also coming their way as Q Lamau, the last man of Team Just Jelly, trying to go for the heal battle as he pops the last first aid after this one. And I think he might try to get one finish point onto the plus of Revenant X-Park, but seems like that won't happen as he's down to a sliver of HP. And Revenant X-Park coming as the victorious one in the map of Sanhok.
Wow. Just when we were thinking that maybe the ushering of the new year brings in some new names, some new teams, and then comes Revenant X-Park. They just don't care, do they? Have won 2 back-to-back official events and seems like a strong footing. Come off and this is as glorious as it gets. Winning a chicken dinner in a map like Sanhok in a circle which completely is against him, and winning that with a lot of finishes, going up against such tough foes. They went against an heated K9, took them down, then had to fight against Carnival Gaming, wiped them out also. Got engaged in so many of those scenarios, and having all 4 of their players alive is an added bonus. Another reassurance to the fans that yes, Revenant X-Park haven't lost any of that spark, and this year is also going to be quite delightful for them. Regardless, but what a game of Sanhok it was. For a moment, it seemed like, you know, when things began, we could see K9 up against Aiku Soul and K9 dismantling Aiku Soul. We felt like, yes, finally K9 is back. Yes, they're on their good ways. They're starting to get aggressive right on the faces of their enemies. But then they were hit by that thunder. They were hit by the lightning. It was Revenant X-Pac.
Oh yes, it was Revenant Xbox just waiting for the plus of K9. But yes, K9, as we look into the highlights as well, started off by eliminating the plus of Team Aiku's Soul. Yes, they were eliminated pretty early fixes in the game, but they have decent finish points to back them up. But Revenant Xbox, that fight against the plus of Carnival Gaming and Cincinnati Esports, that was so important because the moment Revenant Xbox took the control in that situation, they had the entire northwestern control of the circle.
Of course they had, and they were so opportunistic also. And in those final few circles, we could see them spread their wings out. The moment they knew they had the things under control, for a moment, the remainder of the circle was so much exposed for them. And what they did is they did not go head on. Rather, they took a little bit of a turn, just circled around and went in for the hunt. And dealing with Cincinnati kids from the backlines and then Carnival Gaming, this is where things started opening up. And then they realized that they were against a rather underconfident Team Empire. Let's just rampage through, just blitzing their way, even from the sides. I think giving no room of space, even for the players of Team Empires to breathe over there. But nonetheless, I think still a good outing for Team Empires, considering where they stand in terms of the overall standings. And even for Orangutan, for a moment, it felt like everything was looking good. Everything was looking sunny. Tail Phoenix Esports from the backlines really hurt them bad.
It was not just only Phoenix Esports. I think so many teams were trying to migrate from the eastern side. If it was not Phoenix Esports, it would have been someone else. Because so many fights were happening. Even the plus of God's Train were also stuck. Destro fighting against the plus of Red Ross out in the blue. So many third parties were also happening in that situation. So I think that rotation itself from eastern side became a big challenge for not just OGs, for so many teams also.
It certainly was. And we talked about circles changing after that 1 week, of course, that algorithm really taking place. So we're getting to see something different. And one thing isn't different, right? The Pookie in front of us, Mr. Joker. I do not know what has really happened to his photographs. Looks quite inflated. Have to talk to the production regarding the same. I think they have him enlarged or something. I'm pretty sure he's in a better shape than what production has made him look like. 4 finishes for this young lad. I mean, what a beauty this man has been. I mean, ever since BMPS, so much around this one player. He's sort of drawn in so much of that spotlight on him, and such an impactful player. When you've got the likes of Spray God, Sarang in your roster, even Shadow who can watch his own back, and then Joker just comes out, he goes all out, gets the MVP. He was on fire, on an absolute rampage.
Oh, certainly he was. Then we also have the best companion from the side of OG as Veron with 3 rescues and 1 assist. I think Veron was the one who was trying to hit the plus of Myth officials as he was all by himself, and he did manage to get 1 finish point in that situation. But after that, OG did go up against the plus of Phoenix Esports, went against the plus of God's Train as well. A lot of things were happening where Veron did become the best companion, but OG, I think that entire cluster became a big problem for them.
And considering that OG, they've got a few extra men outside, and Veron filling in Atanki's shoes. I think he's been doing his job so well. One of those players you can constantly rely on, and he's been delivering not just in terms of being a support for his team, but also in providing that firepower constantly in the mix. He was doing so much. He was getting knocks left, right, and center. Even when situations were really dire, that's where he comes up with those revives, his map presence. I think he's been evolving himself. And this little maturity coming in will certainly help OG as they keep marching ahead. But still, OG, nonetheless, I think they were quite aggressive right from the get-go. This is something that we have seen out of OG. Now, they have been quite a balanced roster, right? They've got a nice mix of how to tactically approach a game, and even if they have to fight their way in, they're also good at that. So I think OG, this really helps them. But what they did not anticipate was Bot Army Esports, a lot of the other teams also coming in from the backlines. Few thoughts on them really deciding to take down the lower side of Query, because that kind of pushes you in such a bad spot, and that is exactly what happened to them. Even God's Train coming in from the sidelines did not make things easier for them.
Oh, certainly. They didn't make things easy for them, but we'll go to the break, and we have one more map coming up next.
हाँ तो गाने के बोले तेरे वास्ते में कर लूं अपने स्क्वाड से फाइट।
कब तक हम ऐसे डिफेंसिव खेलते रहेंगे? नहीं है।
नहीं
टाइम आ गया है, सीधा उनकी स्क्वाड पे स्लैम करेंगे। नेक्स्ट शॉट, हेडशॉट, हेडशॉट।
तेरे वास्ते में कर लूं अपने स्क्वाड से फाइट। तेरे साथ मुझे करनी है कैंपिंग ऑल नाइट।
डे हो या नाइट, इंडिया करे फाइट। डे हो या नाइट, इंडिया करे फाइट।
मैं नूब नहीं हूँ, मैं नूब नहीं हूँ पापा, नूब नहीं हूँ।
मेरा बेटा नूब नहीं है।
तेरी आंखें M416 ग्लेशियर का हथियार बेबी। हो गया दिल के आर पार बेबी।
टीपीपी भेजा। एफपीपी टीपीपी एफपीपी।
मैं नूब नहीं हूँ।
एक काम कर, टीपीपी भेजा।
कौन लुंड्री ढूंढ रही ना सर। विनर विनर चिकन डिनर।
डे हो या नाइट, इंडिया करे फाइट।
कौन कहता है इंडिया फन को सीरियसली नहीं लेता है?
हो या नाइट, इंडिया करे फाइट।
So we're just gonna do our thing. Ain't never do the Broncos thing. We're gonna bring you down. If you think you'll stop us somehow, just let us do our thing. Ain't never do the Broncos thing.
Well, the pack of wolves are hunting and in some fierce fashion, folks, as we welcome you back. Once again, you're watching the Snapdragon Pro Series. Next up, it's going to be Vikendi. Of course, I've got my man Necro along with me. But Necro, I mean, talk about Revenant and Revenant X Park having such a ludicrous start. This was a circle that really did not favor them. And a lot might think this was not their game to win. But somehow, they managed to pull the strings and pulled off what could have been an impossible game.
To be honest, for some reason it feels like Revenant X Park is unparalleled to this lobby. This lobby is not enough to take down a team like Revenant X Park. Every single time, somehow they pull off some of the most clinical moves and come out on top in some of the duels, or be it even the game itself. And that previous game was a prime example of that. Revenant X Park, so clinical, so clean in their approach, and somehow, for some reason, I thought, okay, Revenant X Park is not going to be the one to get this one, but they still do get it. K9 Esports wiping out a team like Aiku's Soul, but then later on getting taken down by Revenant X Park themselves. Now, Fixes, to be honest, I feel like K9 Esports is one of those teams that is hiding a lot underneath their sleeves, and they do not want to showcase it just yet.
And to be honest, considering how week one really started off for them, I think this is rather still a delightful start for K9, especially them having secured a lot of finishes. Finally, you want to see that aggression coming in from their side, because early on they were quite reluctant in engaging in those fights, and seems like that has changed in this particular week. And taking down Aiko Soul, and we have to talk about that, but we will do once we're done with the formalities. Of course, the match rankings will be on our screens, and Revenant X Park soaring high. 21 points right from the get-go. Talk about having a great start.
And even Team Empire doing the same thing, 11 points and fixes. Speaking of Team Empire, a team that barely qualified from the Open Finals, now look at them in the overall standings. With this performance, they might just catapult themselves in the top 16 as well. Team Just Chilly, 9 points. Red Ross, consistent performances. The newer faces on the block, once again performing super well. Diesel Esports, 6 finished points and 1 placement points. Now, if you do remember, Diesel Esports was one of those teams that was going for the med strat constantly. But this time around, they switched things up, and they're looking pretty aggressive, and I'm loving that.
We all are. And, at this point, we have to talk about IQ Soul and just that one point. And this has been happening quite often. Even if you look at the latter days of the first week, they have been under fire, under threat. They have been taken down by the likes of Team Empire, K9 also around that Sanhok areas. This time, they came up with a different mindset. They decided to back off, but again had to lock horns. And that one fight looked so sketchy from IQ Soul. Kind of looked sus considering the fact that K9 had such good footing and still IQ Soul wanted to push it through.
I mean, look, for IQ Soul, I do understand some of the risky moves that they're taking. It does not really make a lot of sense. But if you remember, Fixes, even in the past tournaments, especially in the long stretch tournaments, IQ Soul is one of those teams that loves to experiment. And I genuinely think so. Once again, it's that experimental IQ Soul. It's not the first time we've seen IQ Soul choke it off, especially in the early phase of a tournament. They love to do so. And the only reason why this happens from the side of IQ Soul, it's because they want to try new things out. I'm just hoping that it's pretty much the same thing happening here as well.
I don't know if they're really trying out new things because it's just two things going on. Either they go all out. This was a different approach. We've seen them back off towards Camp Bravo there. This is not Camp Alpha, in fact. My apologies. So we've seen this happen, but somewhere down the line, it felt like K9 outsmarted them. Because K9, instead of going further deep inside the circle, what they did was took over the exact same hills that IQ Soul likes to take. And they had everything covered for themselves. Of course, Omega's loss was something that they did not anticipate. But with just one player's casualty, if you're getting down a team like IQ Soul, I think that is something that they can live with. But for IQ Soul, at that point, I have to raise this question as to why they had to force their fights. Could they have not waited it a little longer because they had the read? And yet we could see that they were still trying to force that fight constantly, which wasn't really working their way.
I think so. The only thing I can really make it out of this one is that IQ Soul, knowing the fact that they're doing okay in the overall standings, they really do want to go for that extra bit of risk, maybe. And that's why they're going for some of these unwanted fights, too. And it's really not going to be affecting them too much in the overall standings, but unless if this same thing keeps on moving on towards this entire day, then maybe we might just see those struggles pop up. But for now, IQ Soul still doing pretty okay in the overall standings. You know what, Fixes? Without wasting any more time, we straight up jump in the map of Vikendi. As the plainest wall, it's going to hit the skies once again, starting all the way from the top right towards Dobro Mesto.
Oh my god, this is quite an unforgivable flight path trajectory. We get to see so much space on the southern side. So many of these teams might lock horns against each other. But for K9, all good in the hood, dropping down at Cosmodrome. Even for the likes of Orangutan, you have them dropping around Coal Mine, have a nice spread work around with. But look at these colors. Wind God, Just Jelly, even for the likes of God's Rain. Heading on over towards Cement Factory. We have seen them in the past drop down at Pudvosto. Or that could be what they're really trying to do. Just circling around, covering the entirety of that city as Phoenix Esports right next to IQ Soul. Now that could be one of those fights where things might get dirty. But even for the likes of Cincinnati Kids, this is one of their games. This is one of their stronger suits. Vikendi, surely they will have to get some conversion going in.
On paper, IQ Soul should struggle with this plain flat path, considering they like to go all the way down south. And right now, dropping right next to Phoenix Esports, it's definitely one of those moves for IQ Soul that is quite out of the ordinary. Phoenix Esports, too, it's one of those teams that is a name to be feared. Phantom Al, too, quite the known players, veterans in the scene as well. And Revenant Spark, a team that's unmatched, supreme, if you'd like to call them. They've been pretty clean with their approach, but for some reason, Spray God's taken down off the rip. It's quite a bad start. I'm not exactly sure what happened to Revenant X-Spark, but they're already kicking things off for the handicap. It's fine. They need a bit of that nerf.
I mean, to be honest, from what it looks like, could have been somebody from Red Ross. They are the ones
Seems like it.
closest to them, and now they might just spread their fangs across. Of course, trying to just surround the players, engulf Revenant X Park, and limit their options of entry inside the zone. But even Red Ross have to be very careful. They've got Orangutan to deal with right beside them. For Phoenix Esports, dropping down next to Team Ikusol. They want to march down their own ways. Of course, a little bit of a recovery from their side in the final day of week 1, but now in this particular way things have started out. 2025 hasn't been really great. They did get a couple of finishes, but yes, Phoenix Esports, we've got such high expectations from this squad.
They indeed do. Genesis on the screen. A team that's still struggling. Tommy gun and iron sight. Not a big fan of the iron sight on this gun. It will be tough to catch anyone off guard from Team Empire. They're a gone case at this point. Phoenix Esports, a little bit of that glimmer against the opponents. No proper execution so far. Ikusol's going to make it out. Still a few players towards Movatra and Vihar. And 2 players making that rotation towards Dino Park. Interesting maneuver from Ikusol. I'm not exactly sure what's going on in their heads, but Ikusol usually like to drop down south towards Vinery. But considering the plane flat path was extremely on the northern side, Ikusol sort of got caught off guard with that. And maybe they just want to move back towards their main drop location.
I think they just switched things on the go at this very moment. Drop down at Bihar, felt a little comfortable. Let Ronnie and Manya go all the way down to their drop location and get some loot done. And maybe make some quick rotations this time. Or could also give them an option of entering from the southern side, considering the flight path was so much inclined towards the north. So you would not expect a lot of those teams coming in from the backlines. But look at this. Carnival Gaming taking down the players of Revenant X Park one after the other. As their misery does continue, Revenant X Park quite limited. 2 players just alive, Joker and Shadow. They have to piece this one out together. And they've got so many of those foes to deal with, Necro. Red Ross on one side, Carnival Gaming certainly want to get some revenge for what happened to them in the previous map.
OG on the screen, and speaking of OG, it's one of those teams that likes to move on their own pace. They do not care what's happening around them, but they always just want to make the right calls at the right time. And that's been working out for OG so far. But a team that's been on the struggling side of things is K9 Esports. Not a lot of points, but still doing okay in the overall standings. Not too bad. And K9 Esports, if they keep on moving with that same pace, I do see them easily breaching in that top 16 without any troubles. They just need 7 to 8 points per game, and easily they can do so. And knowing that it is Omega, Beast, Ninja Boy, and Slug, those points are a piece of cake for these guys.
Oh, they certainly are. I mean, at this point for K9, it's all going to be about how quickly can they get their old form back. How quickly can Omega gel up with this squad? A rather ferocious one at that. We've seen the true potential still hasn't really erupted. They can do so much better than this. It's all about gelling up really quickly, because now, even with this tournament, the next officials are on the horizon, and you want to see K9 as good as new. Once again, back to their old ways. Runners-up of the BGIS while they were under the banner of Global Esports. But for Bud Army Esports, they've also got their work cut out. They know that this time, this week, they will have to focus a little bit more on the position points. Because in the finishes department, they have been ever so good. Just 3 points out of 9 matches is something that they really need to think about.
Indeed. Just Chili, another one of those teams, and honestly speaking about this team, we pretty much know they can qualify to the LAN Finals. It's not even a question. I just want to see how many problems they create for the lobby at this point. Hold on to that thought, OG. As I mentioned a while ago, a team that loves to be on their own pace, but this time, the pace has been interrupted by CG. Carnival Gaming, considering New Year was just around the corner, definitely CG, they might just be feeling at the top of their game. Goblin in the back lines, and for Goblin, the only best thing he can do is just back away, and that's what he's doing. 3 players of CG playing in tandem, while Goblin is the only player separated, and he drops down. The separated player was isolated so perfectly from OG. They played their cards right, and now CG's taken down with a 3-man squad. Hector, Neo, and Zyphrix. I'm not exactly sure how much can these 3 players pull off.
I mean, Carnival Gaming seems like they were caught off guard. Weren't really anticipating suddenly to OG close in like that. And for all the right reasons, right? These are the Mount Cresnich areas, and you know when circles are coming up, it is going to be one of the hot spots. And on the side, we also do have Revenant X-Park going up against Red Ross as Neo under heavy fire as he comes out of his hiding, eventually just to be taken down. Gets into that beautiful grenade swinging in from AKOP's side as Zerix, one of the final few members alive for Carnival Gaming, as he looks to turn the fate. And he indeed has begun the journey, already taking down AKOP. One of the danger mans done and dusted. Hector also alive, has to get that revival in Neo ASAP, but from the backlines do come swinging in are the players of K9.
K9 just swinging blindly. At least getting that 1 elimination point secured, but K9, they need to play on the intel. If they had rushed blindly this time around, it will be a big problem. OG from the top, there's another team right underneath OG, and then there's K9 Esports. A layer of 3. And K9, they've sort of spread themselves out pretty well. Omega underneath. Beast and Ninja Boy moving in tandem. They love to take the fights up close and personal. And CG dropping down slowly and steadily. And it's always Omega, the first casualty of this squad. And once again, Omega hits the deck. The confirmation instantly follows up in K9 Esports. For some reason, it feels like these 3 players, they've got a good understanding of each other. And then there's Omega, who's all by himself. And K9 Esports, yes, they do secure those elimination points, but they do not get the top off, as they could have if they would have eliminated the players of OG.
Really difficult to make out of that situation, especially when K9 come closing in. They had that element of surprise, of course. Blew their cover out the moment they struck in on Carnival and Orangutan both, but still suffering those losses is something that should not have happened. Especially considering all these teams fighting for that central territory. King of the Hills position, and seems like still intact. But look at this, Cincinnati kids. They've come in out of nowhere, and they know OG, their numbers really not intact anymore. And if they can somehow sneak in on them, maybe find Wizguard off guard, this could really pay off. Elsewhere we saw Revenant X-Park being pushed over by the players of Red Ross, and suddenly they answered back. 3 of the players of Red Ross, they were done and dusted, while Lucifer, he had no other options but to tuck his tails and run.
That's going to be the wiser option, of course. Especially when you do not really have the man force to deal with the opponents. It's better just back away. CK, Cincinnati kids, on Mount Kresnik, looking confident. But the next zone shift is going to be dictating the main pace. But considering it is the map of Vikendi, the first 4 stages, they barely do anything. The 5th stage is where the real action begins. Team Empire from the bottom right. They might just move up against the players of Myth. Bot Army Esports, still waiting for them to turn on that aggressive side. Bot Army Esports has been playing it pretty passive, which makes a lot of sense. Vikendi, you got to switch the pace. Wingard Esports, just jelly right next to each other. You've also got GDR in that same compound of Potavosto. Too many teams right next to each other. If the zone moves away from this area, it's going to be hell break and lose soon.
I think still a little bit of more time remains. I think 2 contending circles have to be around either Port Vosto or it's going to be that good old Mount Kresnich. We've seen things drop down really nasty over there, especially atop the hill. So many teams contending for that spot, and none of them have the entire real estate to themselves. It could be either ways. You've got OG still there, They've lost out on a lot of numbers though. K9, constant menace. Even when we saw the map feed in front of us, we could see Ico Soul delaying their entry inside the circle by a lot. Somehow aware that Phoenix Esports could come striking in from the backlines, haven't really entered inside the circle. But Veron has got all that intel to work around with. Information on Aditya's presence. He's got also, and now OG cannot really be on that aggressive stance. Have to be playing on the back foot, have to rely on their opposition, making all those mistakes whilst two players surviving. You've got that central position. I do not like the ring of it. Especially you might be susceptible to fire from so many other directions. As the circle takes another shift, slightly bending towards Pudvosto and God's Rain, they have to make the most out of this situation. Surely they do.
They indeed have to. Cincinnati Kids still in this area. Looking safe. A few eliminations now starting to fly across. Team Empire falling prey. Red Ross Lucifer, well, dealt with. Vanishes into thin air. Team Empire 2, Empire himself gets knocked out. Genix FM, or maybe you can't say Genesis. Right now, Team Empire out in the open. All the disadvantages stacked with the players. And for some reason, Team Empire just cannot get away harm's free this time around. Predator out in the open. Fragger's taking those shots, but the connection seems pretty tough. A few more teams around the fray is definitely going to make things even worse for Team Empire. And Empire right now has been one of the most consistent underdog teams. And they just need to keep on moving up with the same momentum.
Had a decent outing even in Sanhok as well. Not a lot of finishes though. Still some position points to work around with. Courtesy to such nice reads coming in from Empire himself. And even a couple of moments ago, we saw Revenant X-Spark taking down the final player of Red Ross, completing their redemption in this game. And Red Ross again found quite lost. They were hunted down. But Farbot Army Esports loving this change of pace. They know they've got the circle center to work around with. They've got a little bit of an edge also to play. It's all about having that information on their opponents. They know Team Empire right beside them. But all of these teams are actually waiting for that next circle shift. Not taking those shots. So careful. Just collecting information. No, Genesis is right in front of them now. Spotted the vehicles out in the far of fray. Now even Ico Soul, they've made their way inside the circle, and now Scary Jord, let's go. He's had enough. Just thinks maybe he could take the vehicle down, burst it open, blow into smithereens. It seems like wasn't really the case. I think it's so much invested into this, surely should have come up at least with a knock.
Still, though, it's going to be tough to find, right?
Should have just remained
Empire
silent, right?
That's a thing as well. Destro. The entirety of God's Reign. Playing it put. They've got the intel to work around, but once again, it's the map of Vikendi. Giving every single player the cold feet. Ico Soul, they strike against Phoenix. One man already taken down and dusted. Utilities being exchanged from both the sides, but this time around, Fury's gonna find the gold spot. Ronnie gets knocked out. Sama is pretty low as well. Backs away to safety at the nick of time. But Altu's this nade, it might just catch Sama, and it will do so as well. Ico Soul is getting systematically dismantled. Two more players, they are still alive. Manya and Knuckle, they need to flip the table, but the time is ticking. Sama is bleeding to his death. The mat's taken away, and he needs to be patched up right now. Even Alto is pushing up close and personal, slowly and steadily. Ronnie's going to be the casualty in this fight. Ico Soul down to a 3-man squad. Sama is being revived. As Knuckle, all he needs to do is just buy a bit more of that time to his teammates. Sama is already back upon his feet. The shotgun takes it up close and personal. Fury's got his hands on the S12K. All we're waiting for is the first of that connection, but as all do, he's constantly striking down the players of IQ 7. The main problem still remains, and that is IQ Soul is not able to connect the shots that they're supposed to. Sama and Manya and Knuckle, all the three still standing. And Phoenix Esports, even though they were so up close and personal against IQ Soul, still no measures were taken against them. And look at this nade once again from Fury. It finds the knock. IQ Soul, too many struggles. They're trying their best to fight back, but it just seems even more difficult as Phoenix Esports, they're slowly and steadily eating the players of IQ Soul alive. Another confirmation hits the deck, and now Phantom, he wants to take it up close and personal. He himself is chipped out a bit too low. Phantom, he needs to back away, patch himself up, but the time is not given to him.
Quite an expensive fight for IQ Soul, and a lot of questions on my mind. Why on earth did Some have to really come in for that revive onto its Ronnie when he knew that there were players in front of him? This is a fight that IQ Soul could have won by miles. They still did though, but that came with a cost, and it could have gone either ways, Necro. That given situation felt like they were looking quite distraught. And now, with such limited numbers, they have been spotted out just to make matters worse over there. This situation, Phoenix Esports already were playing on a disadvantage. Did not have all their players, but still there was a moment where they kind of delayed it a little too much. And now Manya coming out in the open, almost about to get taken down. There you go. Sham does not miss his spray. Connects it. And now the only glimmering hope has to be Knuckle. Especially with the circle closing in. How many meds does he have to work around with? That's the big ask as the circle has shifted further west. Still around Pudvosto, you've got God's Rain at a very good spot. But for IQ Soul, the question still stands. A lot of mistakes being committed in that fight.
Yeah. Too many numbers dropped for no reason. And it felt like IQ Soul were really missing those crucial shots that they were not supposed to, especially initially. Only if they would have hit those shots, maybe things could have been different. And look at what happens here. With that, it's going to put an end to the story of Revenant Spark in this game. Good stuff from Genesis. That was desperately needed. Revenant Spark getting eliminated from this game was needed for a new team to come through victorious. If Revenant Spark is there alive in the top 10, you pretty much know they're going to be there in the podium finish as well.
Yeah, I mean, who has forgotten that magical game of Vikendi? In the officials happy. But for now, K9. Right now, Myth officials. They do not battle against Orangutan as Wizguard just cleans them up, lining the players, and Myth officials converted into dust. As now, K9 Esports, they've also been getting a couple of finishes for themselves. 3 finishes already still there. With the loss of Omega quite early on. That little bit of a kerfuffle around the center of Mount Kresnich as Beast holding the line against Borami Esports as he rampages through, gets all the 3 players and maybe could just clutch it out. This man is special. He is certainly built different. It's going to be Slug getting all that numbers, but Beast drawing all that attention. Borami Esports left with nothing but tears.
Slug got the eliminations, but the main damage was dealt by Beast himself. Solid stuff from K9 Esports, but what a big choke from Bot Army Esports. Not having the info, still moving up with that same terrain, and they got shut down eventually. Even OG is doing really good in this game. Viscott is popping off. He's got 6 eliminations all by himself. OG with 10 finished points so far. They're indeed dominating the playing field. K9 Esports 2, 7 finishes racked up. I'm telling you, even if this team is handicapped, even if they do not really have the IGL in the field, as long as these 3 players are alive, it's all good in the hood, my friend. They've got a good understanding of the game themselves.
But look at the circle shift. A really awkward position. Wingard, they've got everything working in their favor. And now Aiko, Soul, left with nothing but just Knuckle. Their Batman Dark Knight needs to arise, and he has to, in this game, at least salvage a couple of more points for his team. As Cincinnati Kids, they take that plunge. I'm pretty sure they're aware of Knuckles' whereabouts, spotted that vehicle with a changed color. Surely, There must be somebody hiding in. Mighty, he's the one taking all the risk. Going in, circling around Knuckle. Needs some assistance though. Knuckle has taken quite some hefty amount of damage over there as Mighty decides to close in, but Juicy from the other angle wraps him up, and now Cincinnati Kids, they have suddenly gotten themselves down to such a precarious spot. A bottom ridge to play around with K9 keeping guard atop. It's looking so difficult for CK.
It indeed is. K9's taken down to a two-man squad. Beast gets confirmed. Diesel Esports, a fight against Just Jelly pops up. And for Diesel Esports, down to man. Orla out in the open. He's trying his best to fight back, and Orla hasn't taken any sort of damage. Eventually gets knocked out. Sham is the only player standing in the front. He's just spamming away with the gun that he's got. Now pulls out the shotgun as well, but Sham, he's getting spammed himself. He cannot really do a lot in that scenario. A team was also there in the back lines named Wingod Esports, who tried to take the advantage of that. But Diesel Esports, he tried his best.
And they failed. But of course, Diesel Esports did inflict a couple of damage here and there. Regardless to say, took down Manya. But for now, Cincinnati Kids, it's going to be such a tough and narrow escape. Still have a little bit of that circle to work around with. But Wingod, everything really favoring them. Slug being a constant threat from atop as Team Empire. They lay their hands on the players of God's Reign as Predator. He finds a finish on towards Destro. The numbers quite limited, and God's Reign surely still caught napping.
That quick burst of action eliminated so many teams. Even OG got eliminated with just 7 points. That one placement points comes into picture. And WizGod, he had 6 eliminations all by himself. The only player who was able to get any sort of eliminations on OG. God's Reign in the front, Hunter and Predator in the back lines. Unfortunately, Predator gets snuffed out and struck down instantly. What a big blunder this is for Team Empire. Hunter's the only player standing. He's got an nade cooking in his hand, and if Snade's going to be tossed to perfection, it's at least going to find one knockout, but no, unfortunately, it doesn't. Delta PG goes for that move, but Justin, he's there to provide that backup.
Oh, that really came down very close. Justin just there to save the day. At least for God's Reign, as now Wingod, they know everything really blessing them. But now their true test awaits. Cincinnati Kids would be looking to inject themselves, somehow sneaking through. Wingod have all that information. They can hear all that hustling footsteps just next to them. And now Cincinnati Kids, I like this approach. Take the vehicle, maybe flush somebody out. A bait and switch strategy. But now Cincinnati Kids, they will have to make some proactive movements. They will have to poke Wingod. Otherwise, it's just going to be Wingod walking on them.
On paper, that's what it seems like. Ooh. Cincinnati Kids, Flock out in the open, but still Slug is not going for any shots. If he wants, he can eliminate Flock right now. And he does it. Presence of mind? Hello? Lacking. I'm not exactly sure what Cincinnati Kids were thinking there. Backline should have been taken care of, but still Cincinnati Kids, they were moving around this vicinity as if it was their own. Even Mighty gets struck down and everything now falls apart. The stars they seem aligned for Wingod Esports to take this chicken dinner home. Infinity, the man who's still dominating. Yash from the top is raining down terror in the lobby. As Wingod Esports, now they get approached by one of the teams right next to him, and that's going to be Just Jelly. Wingod not looking too comfy. K9 Esports, they get eliminated in this train. Yash, he needs to get rid of the opponents that are right underneath him.
At this point, now it's starting to look quite exciting. God's Reign, Josh Jelly, both
Beautiful
pushing in
nade.
tandem with
Justin
each other.
Caught. Just Jelly, they tend to activate themselves. Kilamau and Ninze playing in tandem. That could have been a good mix, but unfortunately the player's out in the open, and look at what Sahil does. He tosses a flashbang, and he moves in tandem with that. Beautiful stuff. A perfect use of flash grenade. And now you've also got Kilamau pushing up against that one man who's still left alive, and eventually Kyo wraps him up as well. Solid stuff. God's Reign They seem like even they're going to be eliminated from this game, but Delta PG still all the way in the back lines, going for that Met strat. And Keo himself, he needs to be very off the back lines. Just Jelly, they've racked up a decent amount of elimination points in this scenario. And majority of the teams are still in the outskirts going for that Met strat.
It's going to be
Even
interesting.
Cincinnati Kids and GDR right next to each other.
Yeah, pretty much in the bag for the players of Vanguard there. Having Delta with that constant threat. Dealing with Josh Shelley, of course, 2 players still alive. God's Rain resorting to healing battle goes on to show that, yeah, they're desperate. They want those points, but Vanguard, they want to ensure got their backlines cleared, and they've got a lot of utility to work around with, picking up all those first aids, smoke grenades, whatever. You can scrap this situation. Also did snuff out Juicy. Oh, that has to hurt. That finish taken down by the play zone there. Vanguard Esports, not really a high fragging affair, but still a chicken dinner to kick things off with. Not too shabby.
More than enough. 14 points, 4 now. If they take down Ninja and kill them out, that's going to be 16. Those many points are more than enough to kick things off in a good manner. Just Jelly himself gets knocked out all the way in the back by the blue. 2 of his teammates still cooking inside of the circle. Even God's Reen, they fall apart. And Just Jelly with this, they secure the second spot. At least on paper they do. But somehow if they clutch things out against Vanguard Esports, then it will be a different thing. Just one man standing, and even that man will be taken care of. It is Vanguard Esports who kick things off in a great manner in these 2 groups.
Finally, I mean, they go on with their good run. Vanguard Esports being one of the dark horses in this tournament. And the circle really favoring them a lot, and them really doubling down. Goes on to speak that yes, this team, they're just not here to contend, they are here to win. Especially their heroics continuing from the past week, and getting around 14-15 points in this one will definitely find themselves in some good positions over at least in the top 5, top 6 with the way they played it out. But oh, so many fights happened, and a lot of fights were really not covered courtesy to those prolonging fights. But yes, the highlight has to be that Haiku Soul taking on Phoenix, and that went really close. Even that one fight around Mount Kresnich, we had Carnival Gaming, Cincinnati Kids, Vanguard, K9, and even OG, everybody playing a crucial role, and it was Vanguard who the circle really favored, and them just getting the chicken dinner out of this one.
No team got a big game for themselves. Even Vanguard Esports just getting 16 points out of that one single game. So it's not a lot of points secured from Vanguard either. And not even the teams that were there on the 2nd or the 3rd spot. So not a big game for any of these teams, but still playing with that average of 67 points per game. Even OG had 7 points at the end of the entire game. So OG's doing pretty good for themselves. K9 Esports, okayish amount of points secured. Once again, they're moving up with that consistency. Not a lot of points, but still touching that average. Just bare minimum. Let's move on towards the highlight and have a look on what exactly happened in the previous game. Relive the moments. Aiku Soul were in a quite uncomfortable spot considering the plane flat pad sort of caught them off guard. And this is how the action really kicked off. CG stepped in the playing field against OG. OG came through, racked up a lot of eliminations, and cleaned up the playing field. K9 Esports, for some reason I'm not exactly sure what happened with Omega, but the man ejected out in the open and he had to face the brunt.
You know, this is what I was talking about. When we saw Ronnie was knocked out over there, I really felt like Some is going to provide some cover fire. Maybe get a knock and then go in for that revive. Couple of mistakes really hurting Aiku Soul really bad. And this is something you don't get to see quite often, do you? But Pod Army Esports, they were really caught napping in the middle of nowhere. And K9 Esports, yes, they're not getting those chickens necro, but still, when you look at their games, they're getting that constant flow of 8 to 9 points per game, which in my opinion is still an improvement considering how last week went for them. Even as a matter of fact, Josh Shelley, they've also been